Hello everyone. We are a group of four tackling chapters 21 and 22 from the book Management Consultancy by Eleneta Cabrera. So this report will first be reported by yours truly, Ms. Vanmava, followed by Mr. Valera, Ms. Katbagan, and then Ms. Amar. So first is chapter 21, Aspects of Project Development Cycle. So the learning objectives of this chapter is to discuss the possible consequence of defective pre-investment study, describe the project development cycle and its stages, give the types of decisions to be made during the different pre-investment stages, identify the sources of project ideas or basis of identifying investment opportunities, and then describe the steps followed in preparing a feasibility study. So, before anything else, let us identify the importance of the topics we are about to engage in. So, these concepts will provide a necessary tool for business proponents and prospective investors in facilitating the identification and evaluation of projects that are technically, financially, and economically sound. So, not only for business proponents but also for investors, it is a need that there is a tool to help understand what business will work and what necessary actions to make to meet the business objectives and achieve economic growth with the optimum utilization of scarce human and capital resources that are available. So the project development cycle has three phases. So first is pre-investment phase, investment phase, and operational phase. So each of these phases is common to all business entities and can be divided into stages each. So first is the pre-investment stage. So in this stage, there is identification of investment opportunities or opportunity study. So this is the part where potential opportunities for a business venture are being identified and listed. And next is preliminary project selection and definition, or the pre-feasibility studies. So since launching a feasibility study also entails costs, this will help them identify whether it is worth the cost to launch a feasibility study over a particular opportunity or not. Next is we have project formulation or the actual feasibility studies, and the final evaluation and investment decisions. So this is a very crucial phase for the reason that it helps in ensuring rational decisions before actual investments are made, and this will be discussed further in a while by my second partner. So before we proceed to the next phase, let us see what happens when pre-investment study is overlooked. Effects of deficiency in pre-investment studies. So first is misallocation of resources. So whether it be human resources or physical or financial resources, if pre-investment study is not done well, these resources could be allocated in a way that is inefficient. Next is we have long gestation periods. So gestation period is the period between the start of an investment project and the time when production using it can start. So if pre-investment study is not done properly, this could take longer than usual. And then we also have investment cost overrun and high rates of industrial mortality and lopsided growth. So in a nutshell, if pre-investment study is not carefully done, it will cost the business an inefficient use of its resources, its time, and eventually increases the risk of having a failed venture. Next is we also have the second phase, or the investment or implementation phase. So the stages includes project and engineering designs, negotiation and contracting, construction, training, and plant commissioning. So investment phase is the more technical part of the cycle in which plans for the pre-investment phase are being realized and implemented. So it turns a plan into an action, and the organization is at work and ensure that the work is done according to the plan that was made in the previous phase. So next we have the operational phase. So in this phase, there is a commencement of the actual production, whether it be products or services to be offered to the public. And we have marketing, which involves the product itself, its price, promoting it, and the target market. and lastly, it has the distribution of goods. So the categories of pre-investment studies. I will provide an overview as my fellow reporter will expand this topic, this scope even more. So first, we have the decisions, the analysis tool study, and decision goal. So identification. This requires general or project opportunity studies, which aims to identify opportunity, determine critical areas for support studies, and determine area for pre-feasibility study. So not all of these opportunities identified will have a pre-feasibility study, so it has to be identified which areas need further support studies, and proceed to a feasibility study. So we have preliminary analysis, which requires support studies that aims to determine which of the possible choices is more viable and identify the choice of project criteria. And we have the actual pre-feasibility study, which aims to determine provisional viability of the project, appraise if the feasibility study should be launched or not. So pre-feasibility studies happens prior to the actual feasibility study to know whether a feasibility study should be conducted. It generally covers the same subjects as feasibility studies, but do so in much less detail. So we have the final analysis, which requires support studies that aims to investigate in detail selected criteria requiring in-depth study. And we have the actual feasibility study that aims to make the final choice of project characteristics and to determine the feasibility of the project and selected criteria. And lastly, we have project evaluation that requires an evaluation study that aims to make the final investment decision. So that's it for my part, and Mr. Rio Chris Valera will enlighten you more about this chapter.
My name is Rio Chris Valera, and I will be discussing the second part of Chapter 21. In identification of investment opportunity or opportunity study. In opportunity study, it is a first step in implementing an investment project consisting in identifying and analyzing investment opportunity in geographic area or business in a particular area. The following are the analyses to be done, the initial project identification. These are the natural resources, existing agricultural pattern, future demand of certain consumer goods, imports in order to identify areas for import substitution, manufacturing sectors successful in other countries with similar levels of development, capital, labor, natural resources, and economic background. Possible extension of existing lines of manufacture by backward or forward integration. Possible expansion of existing industrial capacity to attain economies of scale. Possibilities for diversification. The general investment climate, export possibility, and cost and the availability of product factors. Why conducting an opportunity study, or why opportunity study is important? Because it's identify the investment opportunities in a region or in a particular area or in a particular industry. And also, it's identify the opportunity to use the natural resources and industrial and the agricultural resources. And also, it informs the technical and economic details necessary for decision making. And because opportunity study is intended to build a project that will result to a potential success in terms of achieving concrete and measurable result. And also, it helps your business to boost in the current situation or in the current economy, and solving some factors that could affect the project to identify reasons to start our business. There are factors to be determined or examined in pre-feasibility study. These are the market and plant capacity, demand and market study, sales and marketing production program and plant capacity, raw materials, location and site, project and engineering technologies and equipment, and civil engineering works. Overheads that compose of factory, administrative, and sales. Manpower, labor, and staff. Project implementation, financial analysis, investment, project financing, production cost, and commercial profitability. In feasibility study, it is to analyze the feasibility of an idea. Such a study will provide an answer to questions whether to implement a project, showing how can you operate a business that being prepared in objective manner. Feasibility study is simply an assessment of the practicality of a proposed plan or a project. This study simply asks if they all have a capacity to build a business, that the resources as well as the return of investment. Feasibility study is simple an assessment of the practicality of a proposed plan or project. This study simply asks if they all have a capacity to build a business, the resources as well as the return of investment. When doing such feasibility study, it's always good to have a contingency plan that you also test to make sure it's viable or a successful alternative in case the first plan failed. Most of the feasibility study have the same or similar coverage. There are no uniform in terms of approaching project in all industrial because it is wide range or capacity to operate. Objectives of feasibility studies are as follows. To understand thoroughly all aspects of a project, concept, or plan. To become aware of any potential problems that could occur while implementing the project. To determine if, after considering all significant factors, the project is viable or successful that is worth undertaking. If the result of a data shows a non-viable project or non-successful, that's when an adjustment should be made. If the scope result is undisputable, the final estimate on investment calculation measured in financial and economical profitable. Final evaluation and investment decision. If feasibility is not an end in itself, but only a means to arrive at an investment decision that need not agree with the decision of this study. This is the end of our discussion in chapter 21.